Look at this device on your screen now. It is small, made of plastic, and fits comfortably in the palm of your hand. But at the same time, this tiny machine costs $1,100. That is exactly the price of a high-end MacBook Air or even a good used car. So, why is that? Yes, they could just be charging more for that shiny logo. But I am sorry to tell you, the truth is often much more complicated. Is it just a luxury toy for those with too much money? Or is there something deeper inside these circuits that truly justifies that huge shock to your bank account? Anyway, most people think it is simply a screen and a few buttons. But the problem is, we are living in 2026, and the tech world has changed. Are we paying a miniaturization tax without even knowing it? In this video, we will tear down this product to find the real, logical reason why it is so expensive. Trust me, the answer is not what you think. So let us find out what this device actually is. On the surface, it looks like a thicker version of the Nintendo Switch. But when you turn it on, you will realize it is running a full version of Windows 11. That means it can do everything your office desktop computer can do, from running Microsoft Excel to playing the latest AA titles at high settings. Currently, the industry calls these devices handheld PCs, and for the highest end models, you will have to pay exactly $1,100. To put that into perspective, that price is equivalent to a professional set of titanium golf clubs or a high-end mountain bike. That is no small investment. Now, if you ask the average person on the street why it is so expensive, they will probably give familiar answers. They might say, oh, it has an OLED screen, or it is a new trend so brands are just being greedy. Some people argue that manufacturers are simply taking cheap laptop components and cramming them into a smaller box. That sounds logical, right? Smaller means cheaper. But the problem is, that logic is actually the opposite. The smaller the computer, the more difficult and expensive it is to manufacture. The next thing that happened in the tech world was the shift to ultra-high density. We are not just talking about a screen and some plastic. We are talking about a masterpiece of engineering that has to handle heat, power, and performance in a space no larger than a paperback book. So that leads us to the real question. If it is not just about the brand or the screen, what really makes up that $1,000 price tag? Are there hidden costs that mainstream brands are not telling us about? Let us analyze the data and see what is really going on inside. Now let us get to the main point. Why is a handheld device more expensive than a traditional desktop computer? To understand this, we have to consider silicon monopoly. According to reports from The Verge and Digital Foundry, the chips inside these devices, like the AMD Ryzen AI Z2 Extreme, are among the most expensive mobile processors ever produced. Unlike the chips in your phone, these are high-performance silicon wafers. Therefore, the manufacturing cost is extremely high. AMD does not produce tens of millions of these chips like they do for the PlayStation 5. They produce them in smaller batches for a specific group of customers. That means you lose the economies of scale, and the price per chip goes up significantly. But the chip is only half the problem. The issue lies in the temperature. In a large desktop computer, you have huge fans and plenty of airflow. In a handheld device, you have a 25-watt processor sitting right behind a sensitive OLED screen and right next to your hand. To overcome this, brands have to use a vapor chamber cooling system. Instead of using cheap copper pipes, they use a sealed vacuum chamber filled with liquid, which then turns into gas to dissipate heat instantly. According to Cement, developing this type of cooling technique for a compact chassis costs millions of dollars in research and development. In other words, you are not just paying for the components, you are paying for thousands of hours of engineering work to ensure the device does not overheat when you hold it. And then there is the Windows tax. Every time ASUS or Lenovo sells a device, they have to pay Microsoft for a Windows 11 license. But it does not stop there. Windows was never designed for 7-inch touchscreens. Therefore, these companies have to build their own custom software layers, like Armory Crate or Legion Space, to deliver a usable experience. They could just give you stock Windows, but you would hate it. So you are paying for the entire software suite to maintain that interface every month. Meanwhile, we have to consider the materials used in the manufacturing process. In 2026, high-end handhelds will not just use ordinary injection molded plastic. They will use fiberglass reinforced polymers and magnesium alloys to keep the chassis rigid yet lightweight. If the device is bent too much, the motherboard will break. If it is too heavy, you cannot hold it for more than 10 minutes. Finding the perfect balance between lightweight and high durability requires expensive materials that you would typically only find in high-end aerospace engineering or luxury laptops. What happens next in the supply chain also increases costs. In 2026, we see a surge in the price of LPDDR5X RAM and high-speed NVMe memory. Because these handhelds need to be fast to keep up with the CPU, they use the same high-end memory found in $2,000 workstations. At the same time, display technology has shifted to OLED with a variable refresh rate of 120 Hz. I mean, it is true they could use cheaper LCD screens, but at this price point, users expect perfection. The problem is, OLED panels that support variable refresh rate are one of the most expensive components in the entire system, often costing twice as much as a standard laptop display. From there, we have to consider the battery. In 2026, we will see 80 watt-hour batteries in these devices. I have to tell you that manufacturing a battery with such high density, weight, and safety is a specialized process. Mainstream brands have to source from top suppliers to avoid the overheating issues we have seen in older technologies. That means the cost of the BOM, or list of materials, just keeps going up. When you add the cost of the high-end OLED panel, the dedicated AI chip, the vapor chamber, and the software, those companies' profit margins are actually smaller than you think. So let me ask you this. If you could save $200 but have to use a heavier, noisier device with a lower quality screen, would you do it? The problem is, most people say yes until they actually hold the high-end version. That is when they realize where the money went. I mean, anyway, you are paying for the privilege of owning a supercomputer in your pocket. But with such a high price tag, can the price possibly be lowered? What happens next in the market might give us a clue. That means we have to look at the competition. With more players entering this field, you would think prices would go down, right? Well, partly true, but the problem is that as games get harder to run, hardware has to keep prices high to keep up. I mean, sure, they could make a $400 version, but it would not be able to play the games you actually want to play. Because of that, we are stuck in a vicious cycle of high performance and high price. At this point, it is a trade-off many brands are struggling with. They want to reach more people, but they do not want to sacrifice the quality that made these machines professional in the first place. So the big question is, will these exorbitant prices ever come down? I mean, we all want these devices to be cheaper, but I am sorry to tell you that the outlook is quite complicated. The problem is, the cost of materials like silicon and high-density batteries is actually going up, not down. So brands are positioning these high-end handsets as a luxury experience, not a cheap toy. The problem is, as long as we keep demanding better screens and faster chips, the manufacturing process will remain incredibly expensive. In other words, companies like ASUS and Lenovo are investing billions of dollars in new factories to produce these compact components. At this point, they need to keep prices high just to break even on research costs. From there, it seems likely that, for the next few years, the $1,000 price point will remain the standard for any truly high-end gaming device that performs well. But why is that? Because the market for high-end handsets is still relatively small compared to the smartphone market. Until millions of people start buying these products every month, we will not see the economies of scale that bring prices down for the average consumer. That means for now, you are essentially paying for a first-mover experience. So the problem is, unless there is a major breakthrough in battery or chip technology in the near future, do not expect prices to drop dramatically in the short term. So ultimately, is this expensive piece of tech really worth it? The question is, it really depends on how you play. It is worth buying if you are a frequent traveler and need a luxurious gaming experience on long flights, but it is a complete waste if you only want to play simple indie games. Personally, if you find it too expensive, I think the best solution is to wait for a seasonal sale or find a used model from last year. I mean, anyway, you should not feel pressured to buy a luxury item just because of its popularity. The point is, an expensive device is only valuable if you actually use it every day. So, what do you think? Is $1,000 too much for a handheld device? Thank you so much for watching the whole video. If you liked this analysis, please hit like and subscribe to the channel.